GM Farcaster. It is Monday, August 5th, and you are here with Nownish Prof and my guest co-host Jake, who isn't on, so we're going to just see a speaking blue bubble, but that'll all make sense in a minute. I'm very excited to have you here. How are you doing today, Jake?
I'm doing great. It's been a little bit of a rough 24 hours for you and for me and for everyone. So we'll try to do a little disaster episode here and hopefully make everyone feel a little bit better by the end.
Exactly. Yeah, we're having a rough day here. Um, we both have been traveling back from base camp. You just got home, and I know it took you about like 30 hours or something crazy. I don't know. That might have been somebody else. I can't remember.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that was me.
was that you?
I've slept in like 3 more hotels than I intended to and took about 4 more flights and trains than I wanted to. So I'm home now and I know you're still in the middle of it, but I'm sure it's gonna be a common experience.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy. So for me, it was, first flight was canceled, second flight just got canceled, but I made it. So I made it from Palm Springs to Denver, and now I'm doing another hotel. So I've been doing all the hotels. I did post that I love hotels because I was kind of tired of the Airbnb, but I like that didn't mean I wanted to stay in another one tonight. So,
No,
but
yeah,
here we are.
home beats everything.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to be home. But we had a great, it was a great experience. I loved, being there. It was a great energy, but I am ready to be home. I see Alina in the chat that she's finally made it into the chat. Great to see you, Alina. And she is just getting back from base camp also. And Alina, I don't know if you noticed, but you are again the cover art because I loved it, and it was perfect for this episode when happy base campers return to the crypto market, and it's the meme of the guy with the pizzas walking into everything on fire. So yeah, so congrats, Alina, you're back. You're back. You're back on the cover. So that's kind of where we're going to start too, is with the macro level. Oops, that's not where we're going to start. Hold on. With everything that's going on with the markets. And I don't think we need to rehash, but it is a bit of a shit show. Not,
Is crypto down?
no, I don't think so. No.
I haven't checked the prices in a couple of days. I just thought everything's kind of status quo.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Have you checked the timeline? No,
Oh,
actually, let
no,
me
I've
rephrase.
been on 7 flights, so I missed all that.
Here's where you get all the news. The memes channel. So just go to the memes channel, and that will tell you everything you need to know about what is happening. And right now, it's a little crazy. So it's absolutely nuts. And the speaking of, also, Warpcast is having some challenges. So some of the things aren't loading for me today. But Sparks had put something that said, what is this? When do we get to actually sell high? Because I keep buying low. I've got that part down. I'm really good at the buying low thing. It's the selling high part that I'm having a challenge. So yeah, we're this is actually a very large macro moment, problem in the financial sector, where it was caused by some financial management in Japan. So we got hit with the crypto market crashing this weekend, and now we're seeing it reflected in the stock market. So we were just early. We were just a little early. Monday opened up, and there it went. So we've got a little bit of a Black Monday happening. Some people are calling it Red Monday, so for the candles, but here we are, and hopefully, we'll see a quick recovery. But right now, it's not looking great. It's not looking great. So head to the memes channel. It will make your life a lot better. I highly recommend it, and that's where you should be living now for the next few days. In other news, so Undefined tried to bring back animated PFPs, and they look great. And you had an option to animate your PFP. And then this happened. Warpcast degraded performance right now, investigating. This is a story in 3 acts, and then No more animated PFPs, except I believe they are working on the web, but they are no longer working on the app because they do just crash it completely. So that is why you're not going to see them on mobile, but you may still see them on web. But I did find this quite amusing. You do not have an animated PFP, except you kind of do right now, Jake. You kind of have like your little blue dot is talking. So I love that.
Yeah, on the streams we get a little bit of animation, but on Farcaster it's just the stationary blue dot for now.
The stationary blue dot, which we're going to explain all about the blue dot in just a moment. And there's been also a lot of it's kind of funny because even preceding this dip and this crash or whatever you want to call it, there's been a little bit of agitation on the timeline. And so this was from Dan. Why are Farcaster builders so optimistic when X, Y, and Z bad things exist? And his response, my brother, bad is the default. It's entropy. Failure is the most likely outcome when building something new. If you're not a definite optimist, you have no chance in making it happen. Even if you're a rational person, you have to be willing to suspend disbelief just enough to make the bet despite all the bad. And then it's just week after week progress, and try not to die, mostly figuratively, for years. So I did love this kind of thinking, and I think it also really connects well with what's happening in the markets, because you do have a lot of folks who panic and they panic sell. And sometimes you have to take profit. You have to make sure you've taken enough to sort of sustain through these dips, but also trying not to panic sell before you absolutely have to is important as well. But when you're building, it's the same kind of thing. It's thinking about, like, even if things aren't going exactly right, keep going. Just keep going. Just survive. So, and Jake, I think for you as a builder, you probably can see and relate to this as well.
Yeah, there's like a few related things here to Dan's post. One is Jesse posted, I think, earlier today as well, this saying that I think comes from Brian over the years, which is basically like you don't want to get over exuberant when the prices are up, and you don't want to be like super depressed when the prices are down. Another one is Bezos has something like this as well. It's like when the price is up 3x, Amazon's not 3x better. And when the price is down 50%, Amazon isn't 50% worse. The price is always going to sort of like swing each way and the other, but the actual progress of the company is, it's not necessarily linear like we've seen with Farcaster. Farcaster had like a huge step up when like frames came out, and it's never, Bitcoin is the same way in terms of price over the years. It's going to be volatile, and there's going to be like big steps up and then flatline for a while and steps down, but you just can't really track company progress or asset progress or anything like that to, the price, because it's just too volatile and it doesn't really make any sense. So
Yeah, I've always said that as well. Like, this too shall pass. It's the good and the bad. It's not just the bad that's going to pass. It's the good too. So I did see that post from Jesse. I didn't get a chance to pull it for the show, but I thought it was right on point, and really kind of relates to this, even though this was a little bit Dan was kind of talking about something else, but it really does connect all together. So you have to keep going, but also be realistic too, that these things are going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of challenges when you're building something new.
Yeah, my version more generally is like this, like the hook that I used to kind of remember is like the worst times get better and the best times get worse, and that's just a fact. Granted, we can't necessarily say as a fact like today is the worst time, so it's factually going to get better. But when it starts getting better, that's you've gone past the worst time, and so it's useful to remember for those bad times, I think. And then I try not to think of that quote too much when the best times are happening. You don't want to always be expecting things to get worse or whatever, but I kind of, use it when things are dark, because if it does feel like it is kind of one of the worst times, sort of a hopeful little hook to remember.
We have a little note in the chat here. Darkest darks are next to the lightest lights. It's from Thompson Art. So love that. Yeah, very true. Very true. A couple other notes here. This was from Dan also. Again, it's been a little spicy. It's been a little spicy on the timeline. Merkle just helps its friends. How many times do I have to repeat that most users and developers on Farcaster did not know Varun or myself prior to joining Farcaster? In some cases have become friends because they stuck around early when no one else cared. We've spent years with these people socializing on this network. Don't conflate something that's earned with built with cronyism. And I think that's really important. And I think you've seen a few other people echo it. And I think Cassie said it best. And I think this is a great example where she said, when I joined Farcaster, I was neither an employee of Merkle, nor did I know Dan or Varun. Varun finally got me to onboard after multiple attempts. Conversations led to what I could do for the project, and I became a part of the team. I may not always agree with every decision, but I can definitely confirm firsthand there is no help Merkle's friends bias. And for those who know why I quit CB, Coinbase, they'd know just as well I wouldn't stick around at Merkle if that were the case. So I thought that was probably the best response to sort of that thinking. And I know for me, like there's, this feeling about the auto mod where certain people got a lot of followers. I definitely benefited a little bit from that as well, but I did not know them. It wasn't that. It was just that I was here contributing and they sort of picked sort of those people that were most active. And that's how that came about. So I think that, a lot of times these things are a little bit overblown and, just chill, people, just chill. And then something else here that's kind of related as well. PSA, if you have feedback for us, Farcaster that you don't feel comfortable sharing directly, consider reaching out to someone I follow, interact with, see if they'd be willing to share it. But stepping back, here's the best way to offer feedback directly preferred. 1, public feedback. Expect a potential reply. If it's small, we'll give you a short answer. If it's longer or larger, there's going to be a lot more weight into how it's communicated and how accurate it is. Are you up to date on everything that's going on? 2, private feedback. Send me a DC. I respond to most of them. Avoid a wall of text cold message as it's hard to parse. Also usually good if we have some public back and forth history first. In other words, and I know you probably do something similar. If you're looking through your DCs and you have a lot of them, you kind of have to, triage a little bit. But if it's feedback, and even if you start it with that, but if he knows who you are and you've mentioned something before publicly, he's more likely to dig in. So they're asking for feedback, but also to, make sure it's productive. One last thing sort of in this section of various things that have been going on with sort of like the spiciness on the timeline from Dan. Why would you build on Farcaster? Frames, actions, clients. If Merkle Warpcast will just clone it if successful. Outside of trading, Coinbase Uniswap, there's no successful at-scale revenue-generating crypto-based business today. 2, the biggest constraint for all crypto app growth is users. There are not enough people using in crypto today. The market needs to expand based on increasing the amount of consumer utility provided. 3, our goal with Farcaster and Warpcast is to get enough scale where developers are able to build meaningful businesses without having to onboard more people to Farcaster and or crypto themselves. 4, separately, if your product is really just a feature of another product, your best bet at building as a business around it is finding the top 1% power users of said feature and giving them as many bells and whistles and knobs as they're willing to pay you for. And 5, we actively try to support other Farcaster apps in the ecosystem, which is absolutely true. And also, I think the other thing to think about too is that, building on top of Farcaster doesn't have to be just developing clients. It can be many things. I think, it's integration into Farcaster. It's even just using that social graph as a base to launch something. That's, what we're doing here in terms of GM Farcaster and supporting builders and what people are building, as well as providing updates on what's happening. All of that relates. And I did see this also from Balaji, which was nice to see. Dan is correct. Products will be built on Farcaster. I want to use it as the social login for crypto for both online and offline worlds, which is different from all pre-existing use cases of other networks. Twitter login is closest, but it's nowhere near as open. So, Jake, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, and you're building on Farcaster in your way, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So what are your thoughts about why build on Farcaster in terms of, for anyone who might be building a project?
Yeah, I mean, base colors, like we're not directly building on Farcaster, but we're definitely like Farcaster first. And it's super beneficial because you basically get this like seed of a community. For other apps, it might be more useful in that like you can literally create, you know, an Instagram or whatever, and then or TikTok like Dracula, and people's following, you know, graphs come into it. And so like you don't have to start fresh on every new social network that you start. Um, for us, it's more so like, okay, Farcaster and Warpcast to some degree have sort of like done this hard work of curating an initial community from day one that was like really strong, very like builder biased, and just generally good people. Like, I mean, obviously that's like sort of a stereotypical overstatement, but when you look at sort of like the engagement, you know, look at comments and stuff on Farcaster, on Warpcast, it's just a generally more like benefit of the doubt, more like civil, less dunking culture than Twitter. And so obviously Dan and team had a large part in at least seeding that, if not sort of maintaining that over time. Granted, it's not all like completely within their control. And so it's sort of like a good community if you filter that down to like, okay, we're going to launch base colors. We're going to explicitly launch on Farcaster first, not just for the initial launch, but like every subsequent feature. Then you sort of like get that message across and you start to build your own community as sort of like a sub community from that larger community. And you sort of already have filtered out a lot of like, you know, maybe less desirable, like lower quality folks that you don't want to seed your own thing. So I can sort of do some curation. Like when I go and try to do a base colors meetup, this was actually a super useful sort of, you know, thing that we did with Farcaster. We were able to basically build a base colors map of all base colors NFT owners by finding you know, people who had set their locations on Farcaster. So it's just a subset of like the total, you know, base colors NFT holders. I forget how many we have right now, but like maybe somewhere around 15,000. And you cut that to like how many of those 15,000 have Farcaster accounts, and then you cut that to how many of them have set a location, and you still have a substantial group that you can then see. And it's like, okay, we want to do a meetup in New York. So this is what we did a couple of weeks ago. Like I sort of, you know, parsed that list, got the New Yorkers who had base colors who are on Warpcast, and then just manually went through, you know, however many it was profiles, and was like, okay, this guy's kind of like, you know, posting, you know, garbage every day, but like these people are like legit. And so I'm going to create a group chat with these 15 people or whatever it was. Like 10 of them were able to come, and we had like a nice first meetup that we just wouldn't have been able to really do any of that without Farcaster. So it's super useful. And I think even for, you know, these social network type clients that are building on top of Farcaster, it's even more useful. But in general, obviously, I think we're all sort of rooting for Farcaster to continue to grow and continue to be quality, because it's just a great way for people to kind of seed the network on whatever it is that they're building.
I think that's such a great point. And you're like a perfect example of, you're building something is not a Farcaster client. It's not, you know, doesn't have major integrations. It could be done without Farcaster, but what the Farcaster social graph gives you is a jumpstart, and it gives you like tools that you can use to really bring that community together that you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know, that's just really speaks to that why, you know, why would you build on Farcaster? And it really does. All the other tools and all the other builders that are working on it, all of these things are going together, like, you know, Airstack and being able to pull information and be able to pull like all that, you know, data to do those meetups and things like that. So yeah, there's so many different things that I think, you know, make it such a great place to build. And not only from the tech side and the things you can, you know, pull from the social graph, but also the people and the willingness to, you know, try things, give feedback, jump in and be supportive, and all those, you know, that founder builder energy that runs through it is special, and you're not going to find it anywhere else. And I think with Basecamp, we really saw that as well. You know, with all those builders in one room at the same time, and you know, figuring out, you know, how can I help you do this, and what do you need over here. I think there was such a great energy there, and I want to kind of share this as well. You were featured on the big stage. Your project was featured, Base Colors. So this was your thank you to Aneri. So thank you, Aneri, for the onstage shout out at Basecamp. Specifically, great to be cited as a project making continual improvements, because that's a big part of my approach in life. Base Colors keeps shipping and we keep improving. We are not a one and done. And I love that. So I want to shift over here really and kind of give a basics of what is Base Colors. Can you chat a little bit about that? And let's talk about, what it is.
Yeah, sure. So fundamentally, Base Colors is the NFT collection for every color on the internet. Also, sort of just like every digital color, basically. So there's this, for people who don't know, but if you've ever picked like any color for anything, I don't know if you're a designer or you've just done anything that required you to pick a color on the internet and Figma or wherever it might be, you're basically picking a color from this RGB model. And that's the hex code that you'll see, which is like hashtag, and then there's 6 digits. And when I say digit, that's any value between 0 and 9 or A and F. So it's like a 16-digit system as opposed to 0 to 9 would be a 10-digit system. And so 6 digits of 16 possible characters results in a system that includes 16,777,216 colors. And I've been saying that big number quite a lot recently.
I know, I've heard you say, and you just rattle it off. So
yeah, I'm trying to like get my time down to where it's like I can say it like super fast and people are like, whoa. But for now, it's like it still takes like I don't have to think about it, but it's just a lot of numbers. So anyway, it's this collection. There's a one of one NFT basically for each of those colors. And so you can imagine, the color black, which is the hex code 000,000. That's going to probably be considered pretty, valuable. People use the word like rare. I try not to use the word rare because they're all technically the same rarity, like they're all one of one, but there's only one black and it's pure black. And if you click that blue address there, it'll bring you to OpenSea, where you can see that the owner of pure black is Phil. I guess he's got it in his Purple DAO wallet.
Purple DAO 15.
Exactly. Yeah. And so he minted that, I forget if it was like the second or third color minted overall. But Phil was instrumental to the launch of this in the first place, and naturally wanted to make his claim on pure black from the get-go. I minted the first color as my pure blue, which you see here, the blue dot that I've used for years, which is 0000FF. So the first thing to kind of understand is the collection for every color. Every color is a one of one. The second thing that we sort of added on top of that is every color has a name. So for this one, for example, if you go down, scroll down a little bit to traits, exactly, you see blue there. So on basecolors.com, the owner of a given color can name all of their colors. But you can only name your color a name that hasn't already been taken. So the colors are one of one and the names are one of one. And suddenly you get this sort of interesting dynamic where like someone could perceive, Coca-Cola Red to be somewhat valuable because it's the legit hex code for Coca-Cola Red. But then separately, someone could just go and get like some random shade of pink that doesn't have like really any inherent value of any kind. But if they get the name bubblegum and it's like a nice shade of pink that looks like bubblegum, it might not be the most valuable color in the world, but someone might prefer that to a different shade of pink that's like pink 1756 Farcaster or like some, non-special name basically. So there's sort of like two elements that could be potentially viewed as valuable there. And then there's actually a third, which is beyond like sort of the look of the color or whether it's associated with a brand or something like that. And beyond the name, the hex codes themselves, this is actually something that I wasn't really thinking about prior to launch, but soon after we launched, people went and got these sort of seemingly valuable hex codes. So one guy got like coffee, which is COFFEE, and you can sort of like make words out of the hex codes. Coffee happens to be like a light blue, so it's like kind of weird, but it's still like might be desirable to some people. Of course, people are going to go out there and they got like 42069 and like every different combination of 42069 that you can imagine. And, those aren't the colors that are like sort of first on my list, but people will do, what they want to do. And it's been super cool to see what kind of colors people want, going and getting your brand colors is like a common trade, or colors of your personal website, things like that. So we've got off to a really cool start. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm working really hard to just make things better and try to launch some new cool stuff. And right now we're really focused as well on sort of collaborating with people in the base ecosystem, people on Farcaster, and it's been a ton of fun doing that. So Mike on Farcaster went and launched Color Punks a week or two ago, which was you mint a black and white punk, and then you can use any of your base colors to color it in.
That's cool.
And there's so many base colors, but you can launch a collection with, in this case, it was only 1,000 color punks. So there's like, scarcity there, and people are really digging that. And we've got a few others in the works. So it's been a ton of fun, and I'm just kind of excited to see where things go, and just,
It is really
motivated to
fun.
keep going.
It's really fun too because you can do like the dropper thing and get the exact color. So this color of purple is the GM Farcaster color that we use like in our branding.
Yeah.
So I pulled it specifically and then named it GM. And then there's a few other things like I pulled this one. This pink right here is the noun flamingo head. It comes from that. So that's why it's called flamingo. So
Nice.
I named it flamingo.
I feel like on that purple, the name GM should age pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. So I had fun. I had so much fun doing that. I thought it's just a really fun thing. And I think this one, I forget what I named this one. This is also June. Never mind. That's not it. There was just a lot of fun in doing these different colors and different naming. Really, really fun. Oh, this is based in blue. That's what it was. I was like,
there we go.
That one? Based in blue. So I was having all kinds of fun with these, and I pulled that blue from base as well, like something they had done. So I was like just having fun pulling it. But one of the things you did that I thought was very smart was you like targeted some folks on Farcaster and sent them a color and named it after them. So this one is Nounish Red, and that is the one that you sent to me, and it comes right from my PFP.
Exactly.
So, and it's very, very cool. So if I actually, let me show it. I think it should come up. It matches my PFP completely.
Yeah, it was it was a highly manual launch strategy, but I think it really paid off, and it was certainly a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, it was really fun. It got my attention. Oh, you named a color, and it was because it was exactly the color. It really got my attention. I was like, "Oh, that is cool. That's really cool." And I want to go in and name some colors now. So I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of like the alternative, like do the same exact thing that I did, but without the personalization and with a different NFT project, it's like, okay, someone sends you like, a tiger or like a bear PFP or something. And it's like, some collection you haven't heard of. Like if someone sends me, a Bored Ape, like a legit one, and it's worth, however many thousands of dollars, then sure, like I'm very happy about that gift. But otherwise, if it's like some new, just getting off the ground project where there's not a particular value for the NFT, and it's not personalized or anything, it's like kind of a spam message.
Yeah, totally.
But when you get something that's a color that you recognize, hopefully, whether it's from, your PFP or your company or your personal website or whatever, and it has a name which can actually guide you to what it's from. So, even if someone just tweeted something or casted something recently, it's not like from their personal website, but maybe there's a color to it. Maybe they, were just casting about how much they love like the Rocky Mountains, and you pulled like a nice shade of like purple or black or purple or blue from the picture, and then like name it Rocky Mountains. They could be like, oh wow, like he really, saw that I was in the Rockies recently or something like that. So it was a really nice gift. And then it actually informed sort of the third feature that we added on top of just buying and naming colors, which was gifting colors. And so now you can go, if you have a color and you go to basecolors.com and you look at your colors, there's this big gift button that you can click, and you can easily send a color to, someone who, their ETH address or whatever, or their ENS name. But alternatively to that, we wanted to build everything in a way that literally like anyone could do. Like you don't have to be crypto native at all. So if you come to the site without a wallet, you create a smart wallet using Face ID in about 10 seconds. You can then pay for your first color with credit card. So you don't even need to load it with crypto or anything. The naming of the color is a free transaction, and we sponsor gas. So again, you don't need any crypto. And then if you want to go and send a gift, you can click the gift button, and there's this gift with link option that just generates like a standard link as if you were sending someone a link to anything. And you just text them the link, and they just click the link and they're good to go. And it's like this super easy process. It's actually using the same technology that Coinbase uses for the, text USDC sort of feature that they have in their wallet. Cool. And so the goal is to have the website be totally engageable for everyone. But, I'm not blind to the fact that a lot of our initial users will be crypto natives, and hopefully those are the sorts of people that can then go and spread it to their non-crypto friends. But I think it's been a time, I've onboarded so many people on chain using base colors that,
It's really cool.
I've been friends with for a long time, and like I've been into crypto for a long time, but I just never really had that thing that I felt that I could share with them to onboard them. I told them to go to Coinbase and, buy Bitcoin and buy Ethereum or maybe some Solana or whatever, but I never actually got them on chain because it just wasn't really feasible. And now with Smart Wallet and something very simple and easy to understand like this, it's a walk in the park, and it's been really great to be able to do that with my own product.
So you and MoshiCam are both doing some cool things like that, where it's very it's going to be very attractive to non-crypto folks. And I think the easier that you make it for the onboarding process, there you go. It's going to be and I loved hearing everything that they're doing with smart wallets and sort of the development there. I think that we're going to see a lot more opportunity for folks to kind of come into the space and have it be a lot less friction in doing so. And that's a great example. I love this post that you had here, the joy of receiving 1/1 color as a gift, personally selected and named. And this was from Pallowhead, who received a gift at Bitcoin, just sent me the base color for my FID. He even gave it my name, grab his Farc card to get amazing surprises as well. So I thought that was kind of cool. And all this like sort of gifting things. And I did also just show Tori, who's in the chat right now, dropped in her the hex code, and I popped that in there so we could see her color. But she said she still has to name it. So Tori, you got to go give it a name. It's time to give it a name.
Yeah, that color's begging for a name. That's a nice little yellow there, maybe a little green involved, and just waiting to be named. Yep.
So you got to go give that a name. So chat, help Tori name this. She needs some help there. I think it's really fun. It's just a very fun thing. Like I was thinking today, like even we could be doing colors that represent that day. So obviously this would be a little dark, but since black is already gone,
Phil needs to rename his color to just August 5th, 2024, or something like that.
August 5th. We're just gonna call it August 5th from now on. But I just think it's a really fun project. It's something definitely worth checking out and sort of diving in. And I think I was just thinking today, I'm like, I should go just play around and name some more colors. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the gifting is so good. Like you saw,
it's so smart. Yeah, it's fun.
That tweet, which was the guy like getting the gift from someone else. And so I've obviously sent a lot of gifts, and a lot of people have received gifts from me. But the sending of gifts, not quite as popular thus far. But if you try it once, it's like almost addicting. It's like the colors cost. I'm used to saying around $3, but today it's probably like closer to $2. Exactly. And
sale on base colors today. I didn't even know.
Yeah, the colors, it's a 30% off discount. We didn't necessarily control it, but it is what it is. So you got one
way to look at this right now. I mean, like what else can you do? So I think that's a great way to look at it. Lots of things are on sale. Go get them.
and like how many gifts that are literally less than $3 can you send that are like actually meaningful, actually create like an emotionally positive response? There's like very few things. They usually require a good deal of effort. So like, you send someone a letter that costs you, the piece of paper, which is trivial. It's basically nothing, or a postcard or whatever. It's even a postcard is probably more expensive than a color. But whatever it is, like the value comes from what you're writing. But here it's like, it's not even that much effort. You just, mint the thing, give it a name, and send it over, and you're good to go. And you don't need to send it in the mail or anything like that. I think it's an interesting digital gift. I'm not really familiar with any digital gift that is as cheap to buy and as personal and meaningful to receive. If anyone has any ideas, I'd love to hear about them, because there's probably things that we can learn. But it is really a meaningful gift for whatever reason. Not for whatever reason, I kind of know why, but it's cool. And so receiving them is great. Sending them, in my view, it's even more fun. So people should try it out.
And I love gifting things, so I know that's going to be something I'm going to be doing. And I was just thinking so I've got my mug that I picked up yesterday. This morning at the airport at Palm Springs, because I love the architecture there. So I was like, oh, this is perfect, and I need to go like pull one of these colors and name it Palm Springs or something.
Yeah, I
Um,
need to I think the way to do I need to like facilitate that a little bit on the website, but I think the way probably is to have an upload image button like
ooh,
right
that'd
where
be
the
cool.
other color picker options are. And people can upload an image and then use the eyedropper that you mentioned earlier to figure out the color without having to, leave basecolors.com or do
That would be
these diggings
cool
that they
because
have
I
to
think
figure
the
out.
way I was doing it was Canva. I think I was doing it like in
Yeah.
Canva and pulling, like using their dropper, pulling the hex code and then putting the hex code in. I
Yeah,
think that's what I did.
the like power law winning things that people are having to go outside of basecolors.com to do for the sake of, using base colors in an interesting way are things that we probably want to pull into the site. I want to keep it like super minimalist, but
Yeah.
I think having an eyedropper on site is the move, and having an image upload to be able to use that is probably the best way to do it.
I think that would be great. Yeah, it would definitely make it a lot easier. But I was like, okay, I know I can figure this out, and it just took me like a little bit to like, okay, now I know how I can do it. Just go to because I was like, how did he get the exact color of my PFP? I got to figure this out. So it's like, okay, Canva, I'll get the number. So that worked, but it works great to do it that way as well. And that way you can get like a meaningful color that's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Like, what sort of inspired this and drove you to want to create this?
Yeah, I wish I had almost like a more, A connects to B connects to C origin story, but the best that I can really remember it is like a few years ago, really busy working on other stuff, but had this idea as sort of like the NFT hype cycle was going in maybe like 2021, 2022, that I was seeing all of these NFT projects come out that basically just look the same as one another. You've seen some people do some interesting experiments, but um, for every experiment, there's a million copies with a different animal or different glasses features or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's all just like very uninteresting to me. I'm like, not to be like whatever, but I don't really care for like a bunch of Me Too projects. I want to see things that are actually new and different and useful and sort of original. And so I don't really know how it came to mind in the first place, but I just thought that the digital collection of colors was like the most fundamental possible NFT project. And because I mean, if you think like what's the most fundamental element of all art, it has to
Mm-hmm.
be either colors or like lines or shapes or something like that. And lines and shapes don't have any non-arbitrary collection of like, there's
Mm-hmm.
an infinite number of lines, there's an infinite number of shapes. There is a sort of defined universe of colors in the digital world. And so it seemed like the singular best like sort of collection. I don't mean to say like this is the best project or anything like that, but in my personal view, it's the most fundamental sort of NFT project that you could create. And once I sort
And
of
it's
had
really
that,
a collection of one of ones too, which is really
exactly.
cool. I
Yeah.
think
And these
that's
days,
pretty cool.
yeah, it's truly non-fungible. These days, you see a lot of NFT projects come out, and like the only thing non-fungible about them is the token ID. Like the art is actually the same for all of them, and that's not all projects, but that's a lot of projects. And in which case, I wonder like why they're not just fungible, and maybe that's why a lot of them are becoming fungible now, and fungible tokens are becoming sort of more popular, like these meme coins on
Right.
pump.fun or whatever. If there's nothing non-fungible about it, just make it a fungible token and have fun with it or whatever. So anyway, it sort of started there with what if you had an NFT collection for every color on the internet, and then sort of quickly finding that the RGB model, which is sort of the universally accepted collection of colors, had 16 million and change. That also introduces an interesting element where most of these NFT collections have 10,000 pieces or 1,000 pieces or something in that range, and here you have something with 16 million, and like what is that supply more similar to? Like the Bitcoin supply. It's somewhere in
Yeah.
between like these large billion coin fungible meme coins and these 10,000 piece, NFT collections. And so what does that mean? Well, for one, it means that the prices wouldn't be expected, the floor at least wouldn't be expected to get in the thousands or anything. It should always be an accessible price because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have worked on Ethereum. So I felt very fortunate, even though I had this idea 2 or 3 years ago, I actually don't think it would have worked even really a year ago. It sort of required, it had to be built on an L2. And I think Base is great. Obviously chose it for a number of reasons, which, I could talk about, but most people here probably just get it without me having to describe it. It would have been viable on something like Solana or something as well, or
Yeah.
Optimism or whatever. But I think Base, I'm really excited to be betting on Base by building this. And then, smart wallets was also critical. And smart wallets are only like a month and a half old or whatever. And that makes it accessible to everyone, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I think it's not really important if you have sort of a niche art project or whatever. You don't really need to worry about appealing to everyone or making it accessible to everyone, because the art itself isn't really appealing to everyone. But if you have something that has the potential to be universally appealing, something as simple as colors, then you sort of have a responsibility to make it accessible to everyone, both in terms of the user experience and the price. And so all of that sort of came together. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the one-of-one names was, I think, a really important addition.
Very big.
That only really came up as we were building it a couple of months ago. So I feel really good that like sort of the base, no pun intended, or the foundation of this project is super strong. And again, Phil was super helpful in making it that way. Like everything is on chain, and we just did it the right way. And then Avinash, who's also on Farcaster, you should go follow him at Avinash Nayak, has been just behind the scenes absolutely grinding to get all of this out and produced, and has been sort of developing everything you see with the website and everything like that. So huge shout out to Avinash. And it's been, like I said, a ton of fun, and just excited to see where it goes.
I love it. I think, I don't think it would be the same without the naming. I really don't. I don't think I would be as interested in it.
No. Yeah.
It definitely is a key factor. I'd even love a way to add other traits. Like if I'm naming it GM, like if there was a way to add something to the description, or add something like that points to GM Farcaster, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that people could get what the connection is to the name.
I'll reveal a little bit of alpha here. That we built something in. Yeah, we got to cue the alpha song. No, but we've got a feature that I don't really expect to use anytime soon, but it is built into the smart contract, which is this concept of emergent traits. And so, to your point, if you wanted to, for example, add a URL, we could actually build a trait that would be picked up by OpenSea and everything else, that in the future we just add a field on basecolors.com where you can not only modify the name, but you can modify the URL, and suddenly every color not only has an associated one-of-one name, but it has an associated URL. And those URLs, we have the ability to make those one-of-one, or we can make them not one-of-one. So if you have 100 colors and you want to point them all to your podcast, you could totally do that.
That'd be great.
And then they would be picked up by OpenSea and everything else. So I'm excited about that. It's not something that I expect to use in the near term, but it gives that flexibility for, like, I didn't want to do anything with the original contract that was irreversible and potentially regrettable. So I tried to think of sort of the universe of things that we might want to do in the future. And that sort of emergent traits ability, where they can be one-of-one, they could be not one-of-one, they could be owner modifiable, they could be sort of centrally set. So for example, if we wanted to go and say, hey, here's like a universe of colors, or like a subset of colors, for example, 3-digit hex codes. So not to go down a rabbit hole, but the 6-digit hex codes, if the first two characters, the first two characters, the third and fourth character, and the fifth and sixth character are the same. So it's like AA, BB, CC. It can be abbreviated, and this is acknowledged, like when you're coding and everything. It's like you can use the 3-digit hex code, and it's so that one would just be ABC. And there's only 4,096 of those out of like the 16 million plus. And so we could centrally go and decide, hey, or even decentrally, it could be decided, but then centrally we would go and implement that trait, and suddenly everyone with a 3-digit hex code would have like a second trait on their colors, which would sort of acknowledge it as such. So there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done. I could talk all day about this stuff, but I don't want to go too deep in the color verse. It can get a little bit overwhelming.
I love it. I really love it. It's so much fun, and I love like sort of where you're going with it, and it's something that anyone can access. It's very it's not expensive. It's very accessible and inclusive.
Thank you.
So,
it's because it's different like that. It's we're not competing with anyone. And so what's really cool about that is, like, at Basecamp, like half the people I talked to, we could immediately find a way that base colors could be integrated into what they were building. You know,
Oh,
if you're
that's
an
cool.
artist, you can go like Mike did, and you can launch a Color Punks collection where you can color in your punk. If you are building, you know, you mentioned MoshiCam earlier. I would
Yeah.
love for MoshiCam to have, you know, in their sort of different tabs for picking the frames. One of the tabs could just have frames that are colored with all of your base colors, and you could
Oh, that'd
choose
be
from
cool.
that. So there's like, and I think I just saw a tweet before I joined this that you know, the guy who's building you know, Minecraft on base. I met him at Basecamp, and he's already talking about he's launching a feature to integrate base colors for, I think, the color of your chat on Minecraft.
Ooh,
So
that's
there's like a
cool.
million things you can do, and it's like I look at all these other NFT collections, and they're not competitors; they're potential partners.
Absolutely.
And that's just a vibe that's really exciting to build around.
I think that's very Farcaster-ish as well, of people
Yeah,
building on top of each other and often permissionlessly. And we see
yeah,
that a lot with different projects. You know, a project will launch and then somebody will do something not necessarily derivative, but something that builds off of what they did. And I think that's
exactly.
a little different than what we normally see in the space, which is
Exactly.
very
Yeah, it's
cool.
definitely on brand with Farcaster
Yeah,
and on brand with base as well.
yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to call it there. This has been an awesome chat. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for being my co-host today. We've had a crazy day. We were, you know, going to do this at 8:30 this morning, and then my travel got nuts. But I'm glad we were able to still make this happen. And you know, go check out Base Colors. Hang in there, everybody. Just survive. It'll be fine. And we'll be back. I'm going to be back. Hopefully, like let's assume that I get home tomorrow. I'll be back on Wednesday at a regular time, 8:30 a.m. And my co-host will be Toady Hawk. So thank you so much, Jake. We'll see you on the timeline. And with that, everybody, bye-bye.